This movie is like Home Alone on steroids, which is a classic Christmas movie, of course. Do you think this film could become a dark classic in the genre of holiday films?
Oh my God, I would love it to become an anti-Christmas movie classic.
If there were any certain villain characters that you studied or that inspired you to interpret Scrooge, in particular, if there were any Latino villain characters that perhaps inspired you to play the character.
Well, it's your movie's only as good as your villain. So it's a lot of responsibility on the actor, but it's the most coveted role by actors, by Hollywood actors. I mean, the greatest actors have always played the best villains because you get to rant and tantrum and rage, and everybody thinks you're acting, but you're just being yourself. But you have an excuse to channel all that angst to the movie. Um, it's tricky playing, especially in this movie, because the tone is so odd. It's so unique because this movie's so crazy. To be able to be in a comic movie, an action flick, and I wanted to be funny too. I couldn't be clownish. You had to be witty, right? Because the villain has to be really smart. And then I couldn't drop the tension. I always had to keep the danger. I didn't need the audience to like me, but I needed them to respect me. That way, the movie really hits hard at the end.
Action scenes are challenging, of course, but how much more are they when snow is added into the mix?
Well, the snow was difficult because we were sliding everywhere, so they'd have to put like sand to make sure that we didn't slip and slide. But it was the cold that was brutal. I mean, Winnipeg is rough, man. I mean, there were days that it was minus 35 degrees below zero, and we could only work 15 minutes at a time, so nobody would get frostbite because it's a real danger. So that made it really extra difficult. Plus, the fact that David Leitch is one of the greatest stunt coordinators of all time. He created the action for Matrix, 300. He directed John Wick 1. That's how we met each other, and he asked me to be in this movie. And so the action was tough. And then David Harbour is 6'5", gained 300 pounds for Santa. I'm just under 6 feet, well, a lot. And so I asked the stunt coordinator, Jojo Usebi, one of the great stunt coordinator trainers, and I said, please make me better than David, because David's going to kill me. So he would train me extra on the weekends when David was busy.
Your character mistreats National Treasure Beverly D'Angelo. Was that awkward?
It's so true. I mean, that scene was crazy. I mean, all those scenes. I mean, I'm a disgruntled employee of this horrible rich family that does criminal activities around the world, and they kind of deserve it. But at the same time, Beverly D'Angelo is a national treasure. So I was trying to be very aggressive, and she'd go, "Be aggressive. Don't be afraid of me." So which made me more afraid. Uh, but yeah, I had to throw her on a couch without hurting her. I had to punch at her, and without it, it was all very, I was being very careful with her.
Between the menu and Violent Night, what a year for you. Her question is, how do you go from a kind of dramatic character on the menu to the perfect comedic timing on Violent Night?
Well, luckily they're both in the comic area. I mean, they both have comical elements to them, and they're both black comedies. It's interesting that they're both black comedies. And they're both about privilege, which is really interesting. That's the tone uh, in the movies that they're writing, because we do have all these billionaires now who are trying to take over our social media, our government, and corporations that don't care about the environment. I mean, we are in a time where the middle class is disappearing. So I think these movies speak to that materialism, that privilege, those people wanting to keep us out. So there is that little bit of angst. I mean, I gotta say, Violent Night was harder for me because the responsibility of keeping the danger was all mine. Maybe Tommy's as well. So that was hard. I mean, I was exhausted at the end of the day of Violent Night because I had to maintain that rage and channel stuff that isn't always easy to bring up.
What has been your most magical Christmas?
My most magical Christmas. Well, I've had some great ones, I got to say, because I love Christmas. It's a chance for me when I can see my whole family, my cousins, my aunt, my uncles, and I think last Christmas was pretty beautiful. I think we meet at my cousin's house, and we all bring a potluck. Everybody brings Latin food. We bring pasteles, coquito, arroz con gandules, pernil, tamales. We bring it all and we dance, for hours, parranda y rumba, merengue, cumbias, bachata, salsa, reggaeton, a little hip hop, and we dance as a family. It's one of my favorite times of the year.
What were your first thoughts when you read this action Christmas movie, and what made you want to be a part of it?
Well, I read a lot of scripts, and I got to say, a lot of it is garbage. And this was a page turner. And I knew I was onto something good. And I was laughing out loud. My wife was like, "What's going on? Who are you talking to?" I go, "No, I'm just reading a script." And it was like, "Please leave me alone." Because I'm like, I got to finish to the end. I want to see what happens to this family. So I knew right then and there that this was unique. Because, Hollywood's just making too many remakes and too much. They're so afraid of writing original stuff. And this was so brave, man, and so crazy and so outside the box that I knew I wanted to be a part of it.
You accomplished so many of your dreams, and you've carefully chosen your characters and always stayed true to your beliefs and yourself. Is there anything else on your bucket list that you still feel the need to fulfill?
Yeah, I mean, I want to do a lot more historic pieces on Latin culture and Latin history because we've been here for 500 years and we've been here before that for thousands. So there's so many great stories to be told, and Hollywood's so afraid of period pieces, especially Latin history pieces. But I hope that Hollywood grows up and realizes what a rich culture we have to offer Hollywood entertainment.
During your fireplace monologue, you rant about the haves and have-nots. Did you improvise at all there, or did you work with the director on that scene and other scenes? It seems like you have some one-liners that come across so naturally you might have just improvised.
We got to improvise a lot. I got to say, we would ruin a lot of takes because we start cracking each other up. I mean, you got Edie Patterson, one of the great improvisers, and Alex Hassel, and everybody was so funny, man. And I would have my own singers. And the great thing was when we would get Tommy Wirkola, who was at the Video Village, and he would start laughing out loud and ruin a take. That was chef's kiss.
You've recently spoken out on a letter to Hollywood, and have always fought for diversity and to be represented in Hollywood. How do you think that you've impacted this change, and where do you think Hollywood stands right now on diversity and Latino representation?
Yeah, I think it's very important to speak out, especially people like myself who have a special platform. And I think we do make change. I see a lot of change in Hollywood, and I think writing these letters is important. I think speaking out whenever you can, it must be done. We can't be complacent. We can't expect somebody else to do it, and we got to do it together. And I think the change is coming. I want to get to 20% representation in front of the camera because we're 20% of the population, even though we over-index at 30% of the US box office and 30% of sports fan and 30% of streamers. I'll settle for 20% protagonists, not 2%, which is what we have now. 2% of protagonist leads are Latin, which is not close enough. I mean, white people are only 58.9% of the population, and they have 100% of the roles. So they're over-indexing there. They're overrepresented at 140%. So that's not okay. But I'll settle for 20%.
And that one is about David Harbour. What was it like seeing him dressed as Santa Claus for the first time?
Well, I can't even name him by his name because I thought he was real Santa. He was so in character all the time. He gained 300 pounds. And I don't know, I think he's one of the best working actors right now in Hollywood. I think he brings such depth, humor. He's so natural. It's incredible. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I thought I was acting with Santa. It was that easy, you know what I mean? And it's like when you work with an actor of that caliber, man, big scenes like the big scene we have together is so easy. It's like playing against it's Nadal versus Federer, the ball just goes, it just goes so easy, man. It's effortless and a joy to work with.
¿Quién crees que va a disfrutar más esta película? ¿Los amantes de la acción o los amantes de la Navidad?
Yo creo que los dos, porque esta película te satisfeche en términos de la acción. La acción en esta película es como arte. Es tan bonita y tan chistosa, pero al mismo tiempo muy, muy sangrienta. Y a la gente que quiera algo más cariñoso, algo más emocional, esta película de verdad a mí me hizo llorar. Es posible porque soy hijo de padres divorciados que me pegó un poquito más duro, pero yo creo que a todos le va a pegar un poquito duro.
¿Qué fue lo que te hizo aceptar formar parte de esta loca aventura navideña y dar vida al antagonista?
Pues yo creo que el guión me atrajo mucho. Claro que el director Tommy Wirkola, que es uno de los mejores actores, directores ahorita en cine, porque yo nunca he trabajado con un director que puede unir estos tonos tan diferentes, el tono de acción, el tono de comedia y emoción juntos. Porque yo cuando vi la película del Comic Con de Nueva York, 4000 nerds y geeks y están gritando y riéndose y cuando muero al final se paran de pie y gritan ¡Yay! Y fue un momento muy doloroso para mí, pero al mismo tiempo muy satisfecho porque hice mi trabajo bien, aunque me odian.
¿En qué película que hayas actuado o producido te has divertido y reído más?
Que yo me reí muchísimo en esta. Ah, Latin History for Morons me reía mucho con el equipo. Claro que la audiencia también me ayudaba mucho porque se reían a carcajadas y gritaban y se ponían bravos conmigo. Es que ser teatro es una cosa muy bonita en Nueva York y viajar por el país porque me encuentro con mexicanos, centroamericanos, suramericanos, los caribeños, puertorriqueños y nos unimos ahí en el teatro juntos eh, nos expresamos mucho y para mí es lo que siempre me ha encouraged to continue my fight against Hollywood.
Perfecto. Thank you so much, everyone, and John, for your time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time and your great questions.